Thank you, Anna. Okay, welcome everybody. This is Mike Berrigan from IBM. I'll be presenting a high-level overview of the Watts Native platform. We're leveraging this to solve an issue one of our clients has in the oil and gas industry. So we're going to go through a few slides, give you some background on what we worked on, and then a high-level demonstration towards the end. So the whole thing should take about 45 or 50 minutes. And certainly, if you have any questions at the end, you can reach out to your local account manager, and we can certainly help you out with any questions that you may have.
Mike, and I will be monitoring the chat room. So if I get questions that need to be answered right away, I will stop you. If not, I'll just save them for the end of the presentation.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, so based on that, let me just walk through a high-level agenda here. So again, this got kicked off with a client I worked with for a few months. They were knee-deep in the oil and gas industry. They're experts in that field, and they came to us with some challenges, and we went through a process with them to get them started on the right path. So we're going to walk through what we did with that client, and then we're going to talk about IBM's strategy within this space, what we can do to help our clients with things like Internet of Things, big data, just cloud in general. And that leads us into the Watts Native platform. We're going to talk about that at a high level. We'll get into the data first method, just a couple slides on that to explain how we can help our clients understand and really dive into their challenges and work through a solution. And then again, at the end, we'll walk through a high-level demonstration, show you some of the things that we worked on. All right, so with that being said, again, we're starting out within the oil and gas industry here, and it's quite an amazing industry. But essentially, this client that we work with, their main challenge is, there's a number of pipelines in Canada and U.S. that carry oil and gas. And it goes through some amazing places. So here's a picture from Montana, and there's a ton of wildlife and natural resources in places like Montana. So we want to make sure this is preserved. And one of their main concerns is that they don't want to have things like oil leaks. All right, so that being said, here's another kind of snapshot here of a pipeline. This happens to be above ground. It certainly could be below ground as well. But again, these are miles and miles of pipeline. How do you manage something like this? How do you, automate it and really pinpoint where you should spend your time maintaining these pipelines? So it's a huge challenge. And then certainly the things that they're concerned about, what they want to avoid, are things like spills, things like accidents, and this, has a lot of effects. It certainly has an effect on the environment, has an effect on people's lives. People get injured. People get even in bad situations that they can be killed. So this has a huge impact on our life. Here's another shot here where there was a gas pipe explosion in California. So there's a lot of the challenges they face in this industry. They're trying to get a handle on and make some improvements. So we went out to the U.S. Department of Transportation just to get some high-level numbers here. And the U.S. Department of Transportation tracks pipeline incidents and fatalities going back 20 years. You can see there's a lot of issues. I mean, this is very costly, not only in the terms of human life and the environment, but actual real dollars being spent to make corrections and to insurance claims and things like that. So it's certainly a major challenge. So this client, what were some of their objectives? So they came to us, and a couple of things they want to do is, one, they want to start to do a better job predicting pipeline failure. What causes pipeline failure? And then ideally they would prevent these leaks, prevent these spills from happening. And then that would certainly reduce contamination, reduce injury, And that's really their main business objective, was to go ahead and do that. In addition, more insight into the data they collect. They wanted to have more of a visual way of representing the health of the pipeline. And then moving forward, they even started to look at things like notifications and real-time alerts for critical conditions. So there's really two types of data here. It's more of the kind of the batch load, and then down the road, they're even looking at more real-time or near real-time analysis, whereas they're getting information from the field. If it's critical in nature, they want to act right away. So that's a big part of the business. Where traditionally there's a maintenance schedule where you go out on a regular basis and you check these pipeline segments and you make corrections. And in this case here, really they want to drive the maintenance around the section of the pipelines that have the most, I guess they need the most help, right? So instead of just going on a regular time basis, they want to start leveraging the information they have to make better decisions on maintenance of the pipeline. All right, so with that, with those challenges, they came to us, and one of the things we wanted to do was we went through a number of discovery calls, and really we took the process we used was the process we're going to talk about, which is the data first method. Right, so this is a new strategy here at IBM that we're leveraging. A few key tenets here. One is a new platform, which is the Watson Data Platform. It's been out for over a year now. We have new ecosystem, which really the central theme here is open source. More and more IBM is leveraging open source, and not only for things like our products. For example, we have a number of our solutions that are built on top of open source, things like Spark, things like Clouded, which is running on top of Apache. And then the new method is the data first method. This is the process that we walk through to help them really identify their key use cases, what they're trying to do, and then really the big picture is the journey, is the architecture, a solution that we can leverage not only for their current needs, but moving forward 6, 12, 18 months down the road, 2 years down the road. So a couple slides just on what this looks like. And the reason why IBM's taking this approach is they're realizing that a lot of our clients have challenges with data and analytics. And a lot of our clients certainly, they know their business, and they have a number of ways they can analyze their business today, but really there's 4 major buckets that we see out there. If you look at this chart here, starting from the left-hand side, you can see there's the operational systems. These are systems that run their business. A lot of companies have a good handle on that. They're doing their reporting on their operation systems. And then the next phase are things like reporting and data warehousing. So you can kind of see things like, why did sales go down? Why is customer sat going up? What's happening here? And then as we move down the chain here, things like self-service analytics, more power in the hands of the line of business, the citizen analyst, more power in the hands of some of the customer's customer, if you will. And this generates new business models. This could be a new mobile app, could be anything, but in many cases they're trying to deploy this information out in the hands of people that need it. And so you can see as you're going from left to right, you're getting more value out of that system. So the nice thing is at any point in this journey, we can help you out, whether you're on the left-hand side, the right-hand side, or any place in between. The goal is to help you get more value out of your data, and that's really the objective here. So with that being said, the platform is the Watson Data Platform, and the main objective here is make it easy for our clients to get access to a series of services and tools to help them do their job. All right, and the kind of the central theme here is around data, because nowadays there's a number of different ways to access data. There's data that's structured, maybe it's in a spreadsheet or it's in a database. It could be semi-structured, a lot of log type data, very textual in nature. It could be even unstructured. Maybe you may have images or videos. So there's a lot of different types of data. How do you go ahead and manage all this? How do you manage all the different sources? How do you manage access to this data? How do you know you can get confidence and trust in this data so you can go ahead and leverage it to make better business decisions? So we're going to start here with the data piece, and then as we move forward with the data, now we can leverage that and put more of an emphasis on getting insight out of that data. And that's really the two pieces here, is the data and the analytics around that. So With the Watson Data Platform, it's very easy to access because, one, these are all part of the IBM Cloud, Cloud Services. So you can start small, you can grow with it, so it's very elastic. Namely, low risk. You don't have to have a huge investment to get started in. There's a lot of these services you can start out as a light version for free. So it's a very easy way to start playing around with the technology. All right, the other big thing is the Watson Data Platform is an integrated set of solutions. And the reason why that's so important is that we're realizing there's a number of different personas out there. You could be a data engineer where your main interest is the database, is things like data quality, moving data from system to system. You know, what tools do I need to do that? Am I more of a coder? Am I more of a person who wants a GUI? Then we go from there over to things like, you know, people like data scientists. There's a number of different tools for data scientists. A lot of kids today, they're in school learning like things like Python. They're going to code, you know, use coding to go ahead and solve problems. Other folks may have a set of tools that they want to take advantage of. And then you get into, on the business side, a lot of the business users, again, how are they supposed to share information with the data scientist and the data engineer on the same platform? So part of this, these are pre-integrated services. You know, back in the day, you'd go ahead and look at a best-of-breed solution. I'm going to pick, you know, a number of pieces of software, and I hire an integrator to stitch it together for me. Well, that could take weeks or months before I have a solution, not to mention all the pieces to make sure that they, the authentication, authorization works across those pieces. So the advantage here is that since IBM has been in this enterprise space for a number of years, or you know, they're experts in it, and we can certainly, you know, bring that ability to our clients. We can stitch these things together, make it easy to access, and only allow you to consume just what you need. You don't have to you know, spend for what you're not using. So that's all part of this platform. Some of the key pillars to the platform, if you look at this diagram here, across the top we have those personas I just spoke about. And then towards the bottom where it says number one, these are the main pieces. We see ingest, persist, analyze, deploy, and then we have govern below that. Those are really the core components to the Watson Data Platform. And the ingest piece, this is really what we talked about earlier, getting access to your data. These could be on-premise, it could be cloud services, could be hybrid, but namely we want to have a secure way to connect to your data, bring in the data that you need that you think is important, and then certainly cleanse that data. What does it take to provide nice clean copy of that data? We can persist it. Could be in a Hadoop environment, could be in a data warehouse or a document store, a NoSQL document store, a number of different ways. Could be just object storage. So more and more we see clients that are leveraging things like object storage. So there's a lot of different ways we have to help our clients get access and store this data in a format that they need. And then we get into analyze. So really the nice thing here is that within this platform, there's a lot of different ways we can help our clients analyze their data. And that's one of the things we're going to walk into today. And whether it's you want to leverage things like data science experience, or you want to leverage a set of enterprise class you know, business analytics tools, we can go either path, or we can go both. And then certainly around the whole project is data governance. And more we're starting to see data governance, not only for actually data governance, for things like auditing information and data lineage, but more and more we want to have the ability to trust this data, have confidence, so we can certainly make sure that as our business is moving forward, when we look at these insights, we look at this analysis, we can trust that what we're getting is accurate. All right, so that's the Watson Data Platform. Now, the method, just one slide here on the method, and really the goal of the Data First method is to help our clients truly understand an actual use case. It's all around a use case. The reason why we start with a use case is we want to make sure it's very functional. We can help our clients. This isn't something that, you know, takes years. We want to help our clients as fast as possible. So we have some clients that give us a number of use cases, and we work on that. Could be one use case. But what's nice about a use case is this is important to them. This is a business objective that they have at the organization that they're trying to solve, and that's what we're going to focus on. And within that use case, we go through this discovery workshop. And the workshop is really meant to understand that use case inside and out. Not only an example of truly what that use case means, so we understand the client's business, but in this case here, we go from that use case back through the data, right? So with this client we spoke about, part of it is understanding where the data lives, and they had a lot of IoT type data. So on these pipelines, they had data that they had sensor data across all these pipelines for miles of it, and what to do with it. You have all this data, and they're trying to automate the delivery of this data to a cloud, and then from the cloud, they want to leverage that for their analysis, so they can quickly make decisions on which pipeline to go send their maintenance crew to. And so in that process, we kept drilling down, and the discovery workshops help us really identify those key pieces of data. Is the data sensitive? Is it internal data, external data? Is it real time? Is it batch? All these pieces around that, so we can make sure when we develop a solution, it's the solution that's best in line with what their needs are. Then we go through and provide a solution, and we can validate the solution. We have a number of teams here at IBM we can leverage. And once it's validated, then we get into implementation, which we have a number of options for that. And then certainly maintaining that and making sure that we're always supporting our client moving forward. So high level, this is the kind of the process of the data first method. So just to pause for a minute here, we walked through high level introduction of some of the challenges that we saw within the oil and gas industry. We leverage this process. So this is what we use on our calls to go through and really drill down into their use case and what the problems they're trying to solve and how we can help them solve it. And then from there, we went through a solution, right? So the high-level solution, kind of phase one, if you will, was essentially, if you're looking left to right here, was leveraging their pipeline sensor data. We were taking that, leveraging Watson IoT, which essentially is a way to take the sensor data, push it up into the cloud. And in this case here, we initially leveraged Clouded, which is our document store. And then from there, we were pumping this into a warehouse in the cloud. And the reason why we did this was a couple things. One, we wanted to have the ability to get access to all this pipeline data. But down the road, one of the other things they wanted to add was weather data. So they wanted to plug in weather down the road, and that would be added to the warehouse as well. So the warehouse is a nice way to not only to combine different types of data, but it's a nice format for analytics. So on the right-hand side, their first pass was looking at things like Watson Analytics and Cognos Analytics to go through and get insight into their data. Right? And their big challenge initially was the health of this pipeline. What's the health of my pipeline? And number two, why are we having issues? Why are we having perhaps incidents or spills, and help them drill down so they can go ahead and pinpoint what that is and perhaps prevent that or take action very quickly. So this is the phase one of the architecture. All right, so let me go ahead and jump into a high-level demonstration here. So I'm just going to change my screen here. And the first thing I'm going to do, and Anna, can you see my screen?
Yes, it's good.
Okay, I should say IBM next catalog in the upper left. Okay, great.
Yes.
So the first thing that I want to walk you through is a look at the Watson Data Platform. So the Watson Data Platform, this is actually running on IBM Bluemix. And Bluemix, this is what we leverage for all our services. So the analogy is Bluemix is the platform, and each of these services is running on the platform. So the nice thing is you only have to pay for the service that you're using. At present time, there's over 130 different services on the Bluemix platform. So in this case here, you can see on the left there's a menu we can walk through. In our case, what we did was we focused more on the data and analytics. And in fact, you can see here we have things like Clouded. We have our DB2 warehouse on the cloud. So those two pieces there were what we used in the architecture on the data side. And then just from a visual standpoint, let me jump over and show you some of the things that we worked on. So I'm going to jump into Cognos. And high level, again, we went through from their pipeline sensor data in through Watson IoT into Clouded, and then from Clouded to DashDB to stage that. So now we have a nice data warehouse. And then we leveraged some of these tools such as Cognos Analytics and Watson Analytics to get insight into it. Now, in this case here, this is some sample data that we put together for demonstrations purposes. But the same thing could be used certainly in a live scenario. All right, so if I jump into my pipeline health, again, the goal here is to help our client better understand the incidents perhaps that they're having in this pipeline. And in this case here, we're going to look at kind of the north and northwest. So we have a regional look at this business. So we have things like Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota. That's kind of the region that we focused in on. Right? And really, high level, this is a nice view of showing we have things like barrels spilled versus incidents. And you notice that the darker the color here is the higher the barrels spilled in this case. So we have North Dakota has the most barrels spilled, if you will, right? So high level, this is designed to help our clients really understand their business and where they should spend their time. And a couple things you can do here. This is interactive. And if they're trying to understand, well, you know, we notice there's incidents by pipeline, our transmission pipelines have kind of the biggest effect on spills. Let's filter on that. So we're going to go ahead and choose that on the pie graph in the upper right. And now my entire dashboard is dynamic and filters for that. And I can drill down and see that, geez, I noticed that transmission lines are going to have the biggest impact. And still, I have the same effect in North Dakota. It's the darkest color, so I still have the most barrels spilled. But perhaps, you know, why is that? So a few different ways we could do that. We could leverage drill down reports here, or we could even leverage things like Watson Analytics. And Watson Analytics is a nice solution for things like data discovery, or even a lightweight predictive analysis. So if you have a team that wants to quickly understand perhaps drivers, what are the drivers for my incidents? What are the drivers for my barrels spilled? I can go ahead and very quickly leverage things like Watson Analytics to get that information. So let's go ahead and jump over to that. And so in this case here, I could be a business analyst, somebody that is trying to perhaps drill down. Maybe, you know, there was an executive that looked at the dashboard and said, hey, you know what? We're trying to figure out what's driving the, you know, the high rate of spills. Is there something, a common theme here, a pattern? Let's just type in, we'll say, what drives incidents? And what's happening is we're leveraging the same set of data. This is going out, as I type this in, we're leveraging the natural language processing ability of Watson. So Watson Analytics is a data discovery solution, but it's a cousin to Watson in the sense that there are some technologies such as natural language that it gets plugged into this. In addition, there's some models, pre-built models in Watson Analytics that helps us identify things like drivers for incidents. And here's one of the examples that popped up here on the left. I'll click this tile. And what's doing is it's going through the data and it's telling me that, you know, based on a 62% strength, that cause is one of the main drivers here. So let's go ahead and click on that and see what it finds out. In this case here, it looks like corrosion of the pipes is the #1 cause for incidents. And we have other things like equipment failures, outside forces. Maybe it's a truck crashed into it, or it could be a storm or something. So there's a lot of other causes, but essentially this is helping me really identify maybe my main area of issues within the pipeline. And certainly I could go through and change this. If I want to look at things like, instead of the cause or incidents, maybe I'll switch this to barrels spilled, right? So I can change my measures on the fly and see exactly where the cause is for that. So it's a nice way for me to interact with the data. Again, I'm not a programmer at this point. And we're starting to see a split where we have a lot of folks that perhaps want to code, and in that case, we'll probably point to the Data Science Experience platform. But if you have a team that wants to leverage a set of tools that's very easy to use, they can be up and running in Watson Analytics in a matter of hours. So this is designed for that quick analysis, data discovery, smart data discovery, and certainly if I want to do further analysis, I could even leverage things like this we see on the right-hand side. And these are discoveries that Watson Analytics has picked up for me. It says, you know, geez, have you thought of this? So let me go ahead and click on one of these insights. And this is basically a tree, a predictive predictive model that actually drills down and shows me what the main effects are. So for barrels filled, it's telling me that look at the health, the pipeline type, in the region. Perhaps those are the main drivers for barrels filled. Right. So this is a nice way for me to get a better understanding of my business. Okay. All right. One other thing I wanted to touch on here, if I go back to my presentation here, and what we found is that once we went through this process, we realized that there were a number of other challenges that our client faced. So that was kind of the initial phase. And what the future phase architecture did was it said, down the road, they were planning on having a data scientist. Down the road, they were planning on adding things like weather data. Down the road, they want to do some data cleansing. Down the road, they want to have streaming analytics so they can have real-time analytics. So, one of the things we did was we looked at big picture with this client. We said, well, the nice thing is with the platform, we can make sure that all these pieces that you need down the road are supported. The way I look at it, these are like tools on a shelf, and depending on the project that I'm doing, I'll take that tool off the shelf and now I can leverage it. But we want to make sure that tool is available to our clients to get the job done. So this was kind of the future phase that we started with, and then we backed it down because they wanted to get something very tactical, something done as soon as possible. So we said, let's start with, first get the plumbing done. Let's get your sensor data in the cloud, and from there, we have information in the cloud, and now we can leverage some analytics and get some value out of that. And once we have that, we can start adding these other pieces. So this is an important step here, where a lot of our clients, we want to make sure we can help them to the end of their journey. And so big picture, this is one of the things that we pull out of the data first method as well. So I'll pause here. Anna, any questions so far?
No, not right now.
Okay. All right. So based on this, let me just walk through this for a minute. So again, on the left-hand side, we have the pipeline sensor data. These are actually sensors on their pipelines that they have on pipeline segments. So it could be every, so many meters in this case. I think it was, I don't know the exact number, but the important thing is the sensors are reading things like pressure and temperature, vibration. So there's a lot of information, from the sensor. They want to get that sent up so they can determine, based on thresholds, boy, this is out of the realm, the normal realm, if you will. So we want to go ahead and combine that with other information, and should we go ahead and bump the maintenance schedule up because of this? So a lot of these things, they're leveraging the information from that sensor data. They can make decisions down the road. Now coupling that with weather data. Now they say, maybe corrosion, the major impact on corrosion is rain, is moisture. So in areas that are hit by more rain or flooding, for example, maybe based on that, we have to bump up the PM schedule for those pipelines, for those pipeline segments, because we think they're going to have a higher rate of corrosion than normal, right? So once they start to correlate things like weather data and the sensor data, they can start making better decisions, because these are huge areas to cover. Huge. So how to go ahead and be more effective with your maintenance crew. That's one way they can save money, is by sending the maintenance crew out on a regular basis, using this information to pinpoint, where they should start. Number one. Number two, when they start using things like streaming analytics. Now they have a real-time information. This may tell them, oh, geez, this pipeline segment, it's severe. This is something that is critical. Let's send a crew out there, ASAP. We already have a crew out there, maybe nearby. Maybe they're 20 miles away. We're going to now send that crew to this area to make sure that they can go ahead and take action and get this repaired. So those are things that are real important to our client in that space. All right, and then now below streaming analytics, we have things like data connect. This is data cleansing, data quality, where as data comes in, maybe there's duplicate data. Maybe this data has to be joined together. So they want to have some ability of joining fields together so they can have more of a relationships between these fields. All this can be done using a nice user interface. You don't have to be an expert in ETL by any means. So that's all part of this ingest transform phase. Again, all part of the Watson Data Platform. And these are fully managed services. What that means to you is you don't have to be an expert in installing the software. You don't have to be an administrator making sure that it's up and running. So, and then as you move to persist, this is really important with things like, backups. So within our persist layer, the backups are taken for you. Again, you're not an admin of cloud setting this up, setting up a cluster, making sure it's up and running. IBM is going to do that for you. The benefit of these systems is things like scalability. What if we start off small and we need three servers, but maybe 6 months, 9 months, 12 months down the road, we realize our business is growing and we need 100 nodes. Well, that's where the ability of IBM comes in and say, we can scale with you. You need to go from 3 nodes to 20 to 40 to 60 to 80 to 100. That can be all done with IBM, and yet you're only paying for what you're using. So you're only paying for consumption within cloud, and that allows our clients to basically scale to exactly what their load is. And then, so DB2 Warehouse on Cloud, what we have here is we have an automatic integration from cloud into DB2 Warehouse on Cloud. So you can imagine you're pumping in this information into cloud, and this is a nice way to stage your IoT data. And then now what? So it's a document store. Does it make sense to run queries against that? Not so much. So there's this cloud, and we have a direct integration from cloud to DB2 Warehouse called the schema discovery process. What's happening on the cover is actually going through, inspecting all those documents, and then creating a schema on DB2 Warehouse, and then loading that data for you. And this is on a regular basis. So this is a real-time, a direct integration. So as data is being changed on cloud, it's getting pushed over to your DB2 Warehouse on cloud. Why is that important? Well, one, can you imagine just taking the time to set that up, right? So if this is a process where, for the most part, your schema is not changing, you're just appending information to your warehouse, this is a nice way to go ahead and get that set up and have your warehouse populated. And again, combining that with other types of data, things like weather data in this example. There could be other information. Another piece that they thought about was asset data. Since we have sensor data, we have weather data. What about asset data? Give me information about the asset. When was the last time the asset was touched, maintained? What was fixed on? When was the last time there was a leak? All information about that asset, plug that in as well. So now when you're looking at it, you can see I have the asset information, I have sensor data, so I have my historical data, and I have my weather data. Now you can start to see the power of, as these things start building, you can really make better decisions about your business. And now that's the foundation for your analytics. So when you have things like Watson Analytics, which is your smart data discovery, as we showed, you can just type in a couple things and get you started. IBM Cognitive Analytics, this could be your enterprise, dashboarding, your reporting, your drill down reports. Now, what if you have a team of data scientists? So down below, we have data science experience, and we have Watson machine learning. This is a piece here where more and more it's becoming part of the fabric of analytics, and this is a big part of the Watson Data Platform. So IBM Data Science Experience, this is all built on top of Spark. So IBM, the nice thing is IBM is managing that for you. It provides a nice collaborative development environment, frankly, where users can go ahead and build out and solve these problems. They can start building out these predictive models if that's how they choose to do so. In addition, what's not shown here is we have a lot of clients that are running SPSS. I can take those SPSS models, I can push those into data science experience, and I can leverage those models as well, and maybe as a starting point. And then I can deploy those models using Watson machine learning. So you can imagine I have my developers building out these models, and they're probably building out models, and eventually maybe they have a model that's fit for production. Well, now what? Now what do we do with it? How do we deploy it? How do we make sure that we have the right team to manage that in production? That's Watson machine learning. So these go hand in hand, and that's all part of the framework as well, right? So this is the big picture. This was the end goal. Well, I shouldn't say the end goal, but this was a future phase for our client. I want to spend some time on that, and then the other big thing is one other piece I didn't talk about is secure connection. So dealing with the internet, we want to make sure that the data is secure. So a lot of these environments could either, we could, worry about the data in motion, data at rest. So certainly anything at rest, we have the ability to encrypt it, lock it down. We have layers of physical security as well as application security. And then in motion, we have the ability to go ahead and encrypt that as well and plug in our firewall. So this discussion alone, you can imagine once we start getting into not only the architecture but the real goal of the client, making sure this is a secure environment, they can scale with this, and this can solve their business challenges. And that was the goal with this process. Okay. All right. So a couple of things I wanted to touch on here is, why is this space so important? Well, more and more we're starting to see kind of this space just take off. And this is just a quote here that I'm showing on Internet of Things. They're saying by 2025, data from connected devices is basically going to have a value of over $11 trillion, right? So it's just massive amount of data, and the ability to kind of mine that data can be so important for our clients moving forward. All right. A couple of things here. Plenty of information you can get access to on the web regarding the Watson Data Platform and data first method. There's YouTube videos as well. A lot of case studies. So this is the main objective here was to go through and give you an example of this client that we work with. But certainly your use case may be a little different. So please, I don't know if you have questions now, or if not, you can reach out to your local account manager and we can walk through that with you. But the idea is to understand your unique use case, what it means to you, what the challenges you face, and how can we help you walk through that and provide a solution to not only you but your clients as well. Okay. Those are the main pieces. I have a couple other things I might touch on, but I want to pause here, see if there's any questions at all with the audience.
We don't have any questions right now, Mike, but would you be able to walk us for a couple of minutes, like show how someone that wants to start like just playing around and playing with the platform, how they would get started?
Yep. Yes, is exactly right. So that's excellent points. Let me jump back into Bluemix again. And I want to touch on Cloud and DashDB to show you the interfaces as well. So when we touched on the catalog, one of the things I want to touch on is the nice thing is when you look at Bluemix, we have this notion of a space. So I have this test space here, and I can have a number of different spaces. But in my space here, I can have any service that I want. So what we have here, in this case here, you can see I have my DashDB. All right. I have Watson Conversation. So I have a lot of different things here. Watson Conversation I use in this case here, but it's designed to build like a chat bot, right? So you can have an automated chat bot, very easy to put together. And these are all fully managed services, so nothing I had to install. I just went through this catalog. So in your case, you would go ahead and create a new user. So you go to Bluemix.net. Let me just highlight that for you. So you go to Bluemix.net to get started. You create an account, and then really it's as simple as going to the catalog. And the nice thing is too is within the catalog, all the pricing is right here. So not only do we have the kind of the free light version. So in this case here, let's go through and take a look at one of the databases that we leverage. In this case here, we leverage Cloud and DB2 Warehouse on Cloud. When I click on that, in this case here, we'll start with DB2 Warehouse on Cloud. I can go ahead and I can see the entry plan. So entry plan, I can leverage a credit card. I can swipe a credit card. And I hit create. What's happening on the cover is actually going out and creating that instance for me. It says service created. Now I have a service available to me, right? So that quickly, I have a new cloud, a new DashDB instance that I can leverage for my business. And when I jump back over to the catalog here, I'll take a look at Cloud as an example. Okay. So Cloud, this is really designed for anybody who needs to manage JSON documents, so a document store. Right. So this is a great use case is mobile applications. A lot of our clients that build mobile apps, they build it on top of clouded. For example, Hothead Games, they build their gaming platforms all built on clouded and cloud scaled from a number of nodes up to over 200 nodes within a year as one of their games took off. Right, so that's you can imagine the power of that. But here's if you take a look at clouded, what's nice is you can see the pricing for each service may be a little different, and it explains it here. Right, so in this case here, the light version is free. And you can see the consumption here: 20 lookups per second, 10 writes per second, 5 queries per second. So you can imagine if you're just like in a test application, that's probably okay. But as you move forward, and you start to see, geez, this is going to be a production application. We want to have there's going to be more queries per second, more writes per second. I can start bumping up into other capacity plans, if you will, right? And the big benefit there is that you're only paying for what you use. And this could be by hour as well. So hourly, as your usage goes up and down, you're only getting charged for that rate. Okay. So within this catalog, 130 different services. Why is that important to you? Well, you can imagine when you start stitching some of these together. So we talked about, in this example with this client, we talked about a handful of services. You can imagine, what if you need other types of service? If I click on Watson here, down below, I can start to see all the Watson APIs. Right? So I have access to all the Watson APIs as well on the platform. So conversation is just one of them. Depending on what I'm trying to do, I can leverage this. What if I have a client that wants to leverage things like image recognition? I can leverage that API on my platform and go through and leverage the object store. So I'll leverage my images on the object store. It's a very low-cost storage. And perhaps we're going to leverage the ability to go through and scan these images on an automatic way. So instead of, a lot of our clients today, they do these things manually today. They want to automate it. They want to reduce costs, get more insight into their data, and leverage that to make better decisions. The Watson APIs help them do that. This is a nice way to automate what you're doing today. For example, the conversation, the chat bot. So these are all different ways that you can take advantage of Watson based on your use case and plug it in and get value right away. So a lot of our clients are leveraging the analytics and the Watson APIs really to expand the value of the platform. So data is kind of the starting piece, and then these are all pieces that sit on top of that to help our clients really, again, get more value insight into their data. Okay. All right. Based on that, I have about 12:46 my time. I wanted to leave some time for questions, and if not, you're certainly free to go. But if there's any other questions or comments, I'd be happy to take those now.
Mike, we have a question. The question is, can you comment why in phase 1 you had Watson IoT in the ingest transform layer, and then in phase 2 you don't have it anymore? It is replaced by the individual service, streaming analytics.
Yeah, well, in that case, so certainly you still could. In that case, the phase 2, they wanted to leverage streaming analytics. We could just still have Watson IoT in there. That was, in that case, we haven't got to phase 2 yet, so that was just a way of looking at it. They wanted to see how that would look. So certainly you could still have Watson IoT framework under the covers pushing the data. So that would still be there. The Watson IoT framework would still be in the second diagram. That's how we would get data from the field into the platform, and then streaming analytics would come. But in the sense of the diagram, really what should be there is Watson IoT and streaming. That should both be in the diagram. So good catch, whoever caught that.
So we don't have any more questions. However, if you think of something else that we want an answer for, you can just reply to the registration email from the webinar platform, and those questions will get to me, and I'll make sure they're routed to the right people.
Great. Well, if no other questions, thanks everybody for attending this session, and hopefully we can speak down the road.
Thank you so much, Mike, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.